Tongue's everything perfectly. Okay, I can hear now.
Không得喎，真係冇 video 喎。佢講咗嘢啦。
Jessica, I cannot hear you. Jessica, I cannot hear you.
有啲都話聽唔到啊。
Ready.
On the phone, not on. I can't unmute.
Hello. Hello. She can't hear. Sheesh.
Audio, it says audio off.
This is wonderful.
Yep. 我都聽唔到啊。我都
Live
話咗俾你聽。
performance audio off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
There's a little button that's like join audio, like right there, but I keep clicking on it to like pick a new microphone and it's not. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about threat buckets and stress today. My tomato face. There we go. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you all are here. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And my apologies for that little.
Use the clippers.
All right. So welcome. We are going to discuss today your nervous system. And this is going to be an experiential session. I'm going to talk.
About this on the chat.
Sorry, I'm just muting people here. If you have questions, please ask them. You can put them in the chat and I will answer them. We will also have plenty of time to have questions at the end, and that's my favorite part. My hope is that tonight you leave with more questions than answers. That this opens you up to thinking about your body and your brain a little bit differently. Can we get the meeting idea and passcode? Some of us are at the gym. Yes, let me just see if that pastes. Nope, just 1 second. Copy. Oh, I can just do it from here, can't I? Copy invite link. No, it's the same thing. It's not giving me an ID or password. Can you get in from the link, Bindia? If you can let me know, that would be great. I'm going to keep going. So let me pull up my little slideshow here. All of this to say, brains are complicated. I like to say we know this much about brains at this point. I know this much about what we know about brains, and I'm going to talk about this much of what I know today. So this will be, just so we're clear, a very high level discussion of neurology, but hopefully very applicable. I'm going to keep it bite-sized so that you have really specific things that you can walk away with today and start doing differently and or play with. So largely, let me just skip my slides here. And to say all of that, just a little bit of information can make a huge difference. I'm just gonna mute everybody. How many of you are, I mean, you're kind of muted, but if you want to put in the chat, how many of you have something that hurts right now? Some kind of physical pain, back pain, neck pain, jaw pain, and or how many of you are dealing with emotional pain? Maybe it's anxiety, depression, ADHD. I like to say emotional pain is physical pain. There's obviously complexity to it, but we feel it in our bodies. And so all of the things I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about in terms of physical pain, but I'm also going to talk about it in terms of emotional pain. And I describe pain as any physical experience I don't want to have. So if that's like, my inability to take a deep breath, then that is, to me, going to cause problems down the road, right? That is physical pain. I mean, it's pain. And I just want you to think about that. Like, we have this tendency in this culture to kind of ride through it, right? To push through it. Oh, it doesn't hurt that bad. Oh, I can just kind of, I'm going to just do 2 more reps, even though this is screaming at me. They've got it worse than I do. I can just kind of keep moving through this. But I want you to stop for a second and think about what would life be like if that wasn't there, if that pain wasn't there. What is it that you feel limited in that you wish you could do, right? For some of us, that's literally like being able to walk pain-free. For others of us, it might be something more performance-oriented. I'm a singer. I got into this work through singing. I'm going to share my story in just a minute here. But I had severe performance anxiety. My ability to show up fully to the things that mattered most to me were limited. And there are a number of ways that we can navigate these blocks, right? But the physical approach, to me, has to be a part of the conversation because I'm a physical being in a physical world, right? There's a spiritual element, all of those things feed into it. But I need to be thinking about the hardware of my nervous system if I want a complete approach to health, wellness, and performance. So, like I said, tonight should hopefully inspire more questions than answers. This is something I've been doing for 12 years, and it still feels like magic to me. It's science, I promise, but I get giddy with excitement when I see someone's range of motion improve, when I give them an eye drill, when I watch someone's abs turned on just by having them move their neck a little bit. There's some really cool, fascinating ways that we can incorporate this into things that we want to be doing in the world. And yeah, it's a paradigm shift. And tonight, hopefully, is the beginning of this conversation for us. So we're going to talk through the nervous system very generally. We're going to talk about what pain actually is. And I think I breezed through this in the slides as I was dealing with all the audio. There are studies that have demonstrated that just understanding how pain works in your brain, your pain will be reduced. That is powerful. So some of you tonight, just from listening to what I'm talking about here, may have a drop in pain levels. So welcome, you're already taking action here. This is fantastic. But pain, so we're gonna talk about what pain is. We're gonna talk about the 3 steps to communicating with your nervous system. I call this the check, try, recheck protocol. We're gonna learn this. To me, this is the key tool that I teach because it allows you to get direct, objective feedback from your brain about all of the decisions and or experiences that you're having as to how they're impacting you. And so we can really start to streamline our self-care, our goal-oriented tasks, right, to make sure they are optimal and really, truly in our best interest. And then I'm going to give you some drills to try so you can experience neuroperformance coaching, and then we'll have time for questions. So I'm just going to share my story a little bit here, just because, yes, neurology is weird, and I believe we learn so much better through stories. I am, like I said, a singer. I'm a musical theater performer. The performance anxiety was sort of this big thing that I was always trying to tackle, but I also didn't feel well through most of my 20s and my 30s. I just felt low energy, just run down. Everything kind of ached all the time. I went to the doctors. I got all the blood work done. I went to the naturopath. We did all, I approached it from the physical perspective. I approached it from the spiritual perspective. I was in therapy. I did 12-step programs. I meditated. I rebirthed myself. I was a seeker in the truest sense, looking for a way to feel okay inside myself. And everything that I did in those realms were extremely beneficial, right? Like I got gifts from all of that, but it did not resolve this lack of feeling good. So I kind of had decided I was just going to push through it and do my life. And I moved to New York. I got certified in Pilates before I did that, largely to stop waiting tables, and fell in love with that modality. But honestly, the more I got into my body, the more I was like, oh, something is not quite right in here. It almost got me more in touch with feeling off. So anyway, I went to New York, and within months of being there, I found this Z Health for Singers workshop. It was actually being taught by another student of my voice teacher, Andrew Byrne, who already was a Broadway, coach. But this woman was teaching this Z Health for Singers workshop. And I was like, what is Z Health? I don't know anything about this. And I'd been using Pilates to help singers. So I went, not really knowing what on earth was going to happen. And, there was a room full of people and I sang and I had the usual tension that I normally have to push through. And then she had us do like an eye drill that we're actually going to do today. She had us do something with our pelvis. And then all of a sudden I was singing freely and that was amazing. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I need more. I had an amazing audition the next day for a national tour. And I started training with her. And as we started to play, I realized that my eyes were having some very serious issues. Nothing that had been diagnosed by the optometrist that I'd been to. I knew something was off with my eyes, but there was nothing detectable. If I looked at the Stella chart, I had better than perfect vision. And that was sort of the end of that story. So I, started going through the training and realized I needed to kind of go through all the training and ended up spending the next 6 years largely in Phoenix, getting certified. I'm now a master practitioner for Z Health. Z Health is this applied functional neurology curriculum. And yeah, it was, an incredible journey. And yes, the singing got better, but what really hooked me was I suddenly felt good, like good. And it was fairly sudden, right? Like some of these things, it can have an impact almost instantaneously. And I'll explain why in just a minute. But then it kept progressing and I kept learning more and I became hooked and I, paid my way through this education by working with clients back in New York and had several who were, had fallen through the cracks in the medical system with fairly severe issues and was able to help them. And that was very, addicting. I wanted more of that. And I started to feel very responsible for carrying this information because I think everybody that has a body deserves to know how it functions enough so that we can take care of ourselves, right? And play to our fullest ability. So yes, this has become my new mission. I still perform, I still love singing, but sharing this information with people like tonight is my happy place. So again, thank you so much for being here. And with that, I'm gonna talk about the nervous system here. This is you. This is what you look like on the inside. I like this, we are the flying spaghetti monster, but this picture to me is so important because it really demonstrates how connected this nervous system is, right? It's a brain, it's the eyeballs, the spinal cord, the peripheral nerves, all connected and always communicating with itself. So there are, if I pulled on one of those peripheral nerves coming off the spinal cord, it would yank on the brain and on the eyes. It is that connected. There is no way to separate these things out. Then there are signals, electric signals being sent through, it's not infinite, but it feels like when you're looking at neurology, number of pathways, right, that connect the head, the feet, all of it, right, in these beautifully redundant networks. And so this idea that like you have a knee problem, we should just focus on the knee. Sometimes, yes, right? Like that's a brilliant place to start. Also, it may not be the knee. Also, we may be able to mitigate the pain by approaching any part of this flying spaghetti monster. So yes, that's you in a nutshell. Your nervous system has 3 jobs. One is to take in input from the world around us. And just to say, like, your brain's primary job is to keep you alive, right? It doesn't care if I'm belting well, if I'm deadlifting a certain amount of weight, it doesn't care. It cares that I'm alive. And anything that threatens my ability to stay alive is going to cause the brain to throw the brakes on, right? And shut things down. So how does it determine whether or not there's threat there? Well, one, through our what we call extrosystem, the sensory receptors, right? So we're getting inputs about the world around us from the receptors, from our eyes, from our skin, right? And then the next step is that it goes into that brain and it's processed and integrated. So we're going to do an assessment today to kind of play with that processing piece of the brain, which is really cool. And then to respond, right? Okay, there's a tiger coming. Am I going to freeze or run? I have to decide, make a decision, and then respond. I have to move. So the cool piece of this is that all 3 of these jobs, these neural skills, can be trained. And that is a big deal, right? In the movement industry, in the health and wellness industry, a lot of focus is put on that movement, on that 3rd piece, right? How well can I move my body? That's really, really important and absolutely required. But the thing that is missing, if I actually look at the neural load that goes to movement, only 20 to 30% of the neural signaling actually goes to movement. 70 to sometimes 90% comes from our sensory input systems. And so specifically the eyes and the vestibular system play a huge role. Like about 70% of movement is driven by eyes and the vestibular system. I think it's somewhere around 90% of postural tone is driven by the eyes and the vestibular system. So if we're not considering the function of our eyes and that onboard balance system, that vestibular system is your inner ear, little organs that live in there that tell your brain which way is up and which way you're moving and at what speed, then we are missing the majority of possibility for improving the way we move through the world. And I like to say movement, yes, but thought is movement. So if I'm looking at improving the way I think, the way I feel, this is also included in this conversation. So that's your nervous system. A little talk on pain. So pain is an action signal from your brain that is letting you know that something is not going quite right. And we all have our own pain signatures, right? Different things that our brain uses to get our attention and let us know that, yes, in fact, something's a little off. Could be fatigue, right? Could be, I mean, obviously physical pain is the one we think of the most, but it could be brain fog. It could be loss of balance, memory issues, right? If anybody's been through trauma and you try and think, right, it becomes very difficult. If you're in physical pain, thinking can become very difficult. It's all connected, right? And some of this that's really important to think about is I might not have back pain, but I might have high blood pressure. And to think that some of that could be impacted by the way my eyes are functioning, by the way my brain is working. Our autonomics are set by the brainstem. And we now have ways to activate the brainstem and play with that. So all of these pain experiences are fair game for improvement if we start to address the hardware. And that to me is a paradigm shift and super cool. Like I said, so just 9 simple things I think people should know about pain. Again, reminder, the more we know about how pain works, we theoretically can actually lower pain. Again, pain lives in the brain. Yes, you might feel it in your knee, but the actual experience of pain is cortical. Just to state, your pain is real. I'm just telling you it's in your head, but it is real, right? Like there's no arguing with that. What we're talking about, though, is whether or not you have an injury or a pain signal. And one of the most important things, I think I actually have it in here. Pain is, yeah, pain is an action signal. No pain, no gain is outdated. The one my brain wants to say, even though I know it's coming up. Injury does not equal pain, and pain does not equal injury. So if I am injured, I may or may not have a pain signal that happens from it. So let me just see if that's, nope, we're gonna come back. There's a story I love that is told by one of the leading pain neurologists in the world. He went out into the outback, he's in Australia. He brushed up against something on his ankle. He felt a little scratch, but he moved on. He then ended up in the hospital, the next thing he knew, and he'd been bitten by a snake and almost died. He had no pain from that injury. Nothing let him know until it was too late, so to speak. The next time he went into the outback hiking, he actually did brush up against a stick. And this time there was no injury, but because his brain was like, dude, the last time we felt a little scratch on our ankle, you almost died. It blew up his ankle, inflammation like crazy. He couldn't walk. He had this huge pain response, and there was no injury. So I love that story. That one just still blows my mind. Something else to consider, MRI studies, right? They look at people with identical back pain. And actually I'm gonna hold that story because it's in the next slide. Just to say this, pain is a skill. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. If you ever come to my Pilates classes in the Walnut Creek gym, I will always start with, we're gonna move into your challenging ranges here, but I want it to be a pain-free range because I don't want you practicing pain on my watch, right? It's not getting stronger while we're here to get better. You're getting stronger, but not your pain. 5 and 6 here. Pain is a complex multisensorial experience. So this is an fMRI study that actually looked at different brains. All of these 30 people that were in the study have back pain, almost identical back pain. And just to say that what I was going to say earlier, if I have back pain, I may or may not actually have anything show up on an MRI of my back, right? There's nothing wrong with the pain with my back, but there's pain. And the flip side of that is I could go have that same MRI and have something show up in my back and have no pain. So it's that pain does not equal injury, injury does not equal pain. These fMRIs lights up how individual our pain experiences really are. So each one of these brains, same back pain, is having a completely different qualitative experience of that pain. So these are different areas of the brain, right? So some people have this whole brain like just exploding with sensation. Others have it in very specific places. Some of them have it in the visual cortex. Some of it have it in the parietal lobe where you would feel sensory experiences. Some of it's quiet, some of it's, it's just so fascinating. And this study in particular, this just came out in 2022, really is a paradigm shift and just kind of a wake up call, I would hope, for, the medical system to be like, our protocol-based recovery programs are outdated. If we're not addressing the individual person, then we're missing the mark. And tonight we're going to show you how to actually talk to your own nervous system to make sure that whatever it is we're trying to do to make you better is in fact working, not just because it fixed person B down the road over there. Okay. Oh, there it is. Pain equals injury, injury doesn't equal pain. Okay. So neuroperformance coaching largely functions on this concept here, that pain can be diminished by emptying your threat bucket. So the threat bucket is an analogy taken from neuroscience to sort of think about, it's actually quite brilliant. So if you think about the idea that you have a bucket in your brain, and it has a set capacity, right? It can only hold so much water. And this bucket in particular has this overflow valve here. If the water, which is threat, which is the neuro word for stress, reaches this overflow valve and it comes out, this is pain, okay? So if we exceed our capacity to hold stress, we end up with pain. And again, that pain can be very different for all of us. It could be any one of these things. Now, we all know the external stressors that freak us out and, have fill that threat bucket. And those are all totally valid. And there are tools and ways of navigating those. But where neuroperformance coaching comes in is that what most of us don't realize is that if we have functional deficits in the eyes, in the vestibular system, or in any element of the nervous system, we may not be aware of this, but our brain is. Our brain is aware of, I like to say it's very not impressed with our physical mediocrity, right? Again, its job is to keep us alive, and to the degree that we cannot control this body, it is hindering my ability to stay safe. So basically, I can have a bucket full of water just from functional deficits in the hardware of my nervous system. So that bucket may be almost at capacity, just walking out the door. And then life dumps on me, and I very well may end up with this overflow valve and experiencing some kind of pain. So with neuroperformance coaching, we're going to come in and empty this, right? We're going to clean up these functional deficits, train the eyes, train the vestibular system. Yes, clean up our movement, but think about it from this global neurological perspective. And this water level is going to decrease. And in doing that, that capacity to show up for the things that matter to me without overflowing my bucket, right, increases. I'm going to increase my capacity to do big things. And I like to think we're all here, right? We all are here to share something. And I personally want all of us to be able to give those gifts freely and easily. And so anything we can do to increase our capacity to do that is very exciting for me. Number 9, pain does not have to be permanent. Neuroplasticity is often thought as the science of hope. So neuroplasticity is a big buzzword now. Most people have heard about it. It's the idea that our brains change. They are changing constantly. Whether you intend to or not, you are constantly changing your nervous system. This conversation is changing our nervous system, right? Any workout you do is going to change your nervous system. Any book you read or interaction you have, we are taking in input from the world around us, and it is changing us. We are adaptive creatures. And that can go both ways, right? We all know about bad habits and how that happens. But when it comes to pain, we can think about these neural pathways, creating new neural pathways below the level of consciousness, right? Can I actually clean up the circuitry between my eyes and my neck? Yes, I can. And that can become easier and simpler, and I can get out of pain, even pain that I've had for decades. It's a really, really important piece, and I hope, inspires you to trust on some level that there is always another path to try, something else we can play with. It's just a matter of, effort and, curiosity. And yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, so are you all ready to play with your brains? I know I'm like staring at a black screen here, so I'm gonna assume you're all like, yes, let's do it. So I'm gonna walk you through now this basic tenets. This is the check, try, recheck protocol. It's the only protocol I teach. This is how we can talk to our own brains and get direct objective feedback from our brains. I'm going to talk through it and then we're going to do it. Okay. So again, because the nervous system is all connected and always communicating with itself, I can check any movement before, right? Like I get a baseline assessment of something. And then I can try something, and we're going to try a few things tonight. And then I can recheck the thing I checked before and see if it's changed. So we can check, just to say, we can check range of motion, right? Like, is there a place that we hold tension? I'm going to walk us through this whole list in a second here, but balance, vision, acuity of vision, we can actually use and change that. It's very cool. Then I'm going to give you a drill, and then we're going to recheck, and one of three things is going to have happened. One, you've improved. Yay! What does this mean? Well, do this a lot, right? Like whatever that drill is, your nervous system found this input to be like an appropriate level of challenge. It liked it. It felt playful, right? It was able to do that challenge and get some energy out of it. And or it gave your brain more information about where you are in space and how you're navigating the world, and your brain feels safer. And the safer your brain feels, the more it's willing to take the brakes off and let you fly. So this is what we would call a high payoff drill. We're gonna look for those. If nothing happens, if it's the same, then it's neutral. And to be quite blunt, everything I give you tonight should be neutral. But for some of you, it's not gonna be. If we get a neutral result, then we have a couple options. One, we can ignore this drill for right now and focus on things that really do make a difference. Or we can make it more challenging and see if we can turn this into a high performance drill or high payoff drill. If you are worse, so let's say I check my neck range of motion, I try something and the neck ceases to move, this is actually really valuable information. I obviously don't want to make you worse, right? But this is letting me know that the drill I just did with you, which will be a basic neural skill, we're not doing anything that should be out of the realm of okayness, that was too threatening. And if that's the case, it tells me that your brain is trying to walk through the world with less than optimal sensory information coming in, right? I like to use my own example. When I first got into this work, if I looked to the left for 5 seconds, my entire being would just tighten up. And I had no idea this was happening, right? Until I actually applied this check, try, recheck. So the thing is, I don't want to stay that way because there's a lot of life that happens on the left. I need to be able to look left and not have it shut me down, especially if I'm trying to do big things in the world. So we need to rehab this. And there's a couple ways we can do this, and I'll talk about it when we get into the drills a little bit more. But one way to do it is to just do it away from, do it at bedtime. Do that, stare at something for 5 seconds in my case, and then plop into bed and we're all right. As we're moving through the drills tonight, I'd like you to kind of notice whether this is a high payoff, a neutral, or rehab. If you're not getting high payoffs, please come on camera and ask, and I'm going to help you try and find a way to turn a neutral or a rehab drill into a high payoff drill, right? So that we are cleaning up these functional deficits, but we're doing it in a way that is actually activating and positive for our brain and not tanking us. Okay, does that all make sense? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this here so I can come back to you for a second. Okay, so we are now going to go through these basic checks, all right? I'm gonna shift my camera here. If you have room to stand, fantastic. Balance to me is actually one of the best ways to, one of my favorite checks. The more I do this work, the more I am aware of the impact of balance on pain. I taught a back pain workshop at Forma Walnut Creek a few months ago, and it was so interesting to see the vast majority of people's pain decreased when the balance improved. It was the metric was super tight. So I am now even more adamant about paying attention to balance. And to say this, right? Like, let's say your goal is shoulder pain. Maybe this hurts, right? I just want to say we want to pick a check that doesn't hurt. If this hurts, check it once, and then we're going to check all these other things. And when we come back, if we find a positive reassessment, a positive recheck, then you can go back and check the thing that hurts, and hopefully you'll see an improvement in that. But again, no pain while we're playing with this. But I'm going to check balance to start. If you know your balanced challenged, you may want to just be feet together. I'm going to go heel toe, right? Like my one foot is directly in front of the other. If that's feeling nice and steady, you can actually try closing your eyes, right? We're looking for what I call the edge of wobble, somewhere that's just challenging, right? I don't want you nearly falling over. If you are a yogi and you want to try something big and bold, by all means do that, right? But we want to find something that you can notice that, yes, I'm working really hard to stay stable here, but I'm not in danger, okay? The second check I want to use is range of motion. And this one, if you're not standing, can be great. You can do something, just sitting in your chair. I almost always check my neck because that's where I hold my tension. But if you know that like your low back gets stiff, but not painful, you could do a forward bend, right? You can do spinal rotations and do a few reps of these, right? Whatever it is that you're checking, because obviously movement can help loosen things up. So we want to know what your max range is, right? How far can I get that neck to move out of the gates? How far can I rotate around? Okay. So that's a range of motion assessment. And then the last assessment I'm going to use tonight is actually a processing drill. Like we talked about the brain, the second job of the nervous system is to process and integrate information. One of the key hubs in the brain that does this is the cerebellum. The cerebellum lives in the back of the brain. It's responsible for accuracy, balance, and coordination of movement and of thought. So we can check anything that involves coordination, accuracy, right, and see how that goes. But this is my favorite drill for this. I call it the hand flipper. Those of you who know Yuki, he calls this making sushi. But you can bring one hand comfortably in front of you, just in front. Take the other hand, make a blade with it so your fingers are all glued together, and then put that hand flat on your palm, and then flip it over, and then flip it over again. And we're going to keep flipping it. I want you to do that as quickly as you can without losing coordination, okay? Check that hand, and then switch sides. So I'm going to put this hand comfortably in front, make a blade with this hand, bring it on top, flip it, and then do that as quickly and as coordinatedly as you can. If you noticed a difference side to side, will you put that in the chat? I'm just curious how that's reading. Regardless, right? If you have one side that is harder than the other, we can use that one. Left was definitely weaker, Colleen. Okay, cool. My right hand is, and just to say I am right-handed, so that doesn't always coordinate. Brains are complicated. You're allowed to have a lot going on. Karen, left is weaker. Okay, so we're going to use the weaker side, right, to come back and check. You can check both if you want, but obviously I want to make some improvements in this one. It's feeling a little less good than the other one. So we've got a baseline balance assessment, a baseline range of motion assessment, and a baseline brain function assessment. Yes? Any questions in this so far? You're welcome to unmute, hop on. I want to make sure this is clear before I give you the thing we're going to try. Hopefully it is. Okay, great. So here is the drill that we're going to try. This is my public service announcement to the world. So as I'm talking to you, I'd like you to pay attention to your tongue. Where is home base for your tongue? Does it live in the like on the bottom? Is it in the roof of the mouth? Where are you noticing your tongue living? And then I'm going to ask you to put it in the anatomically correct position. To do this, you're going to take the tip of the tongue, bring it to the back of the top teeth, and then slide that tongue backwards until you feel the alveolar ridge. This is the bump kind of on the roof of the mouth. And then once that's there, I want you to glue the back of the tongue up to the roof of the mouth. So if this is the roof of my mouth, I've got my tongue suctioned up there. I do have a picture here for you. With the tongue in that position, can you try swallowing? So you can see this here, right? We've got the tip up, and this is nice and sucked up into that cave of the roof of the mouth there. Glue that tongue up there. See if you can swallow a couple times. If that's too hard, if you can't get that swallow, we're going to do something called the cheesy grin. You're going to lift your eyebrows up and smile bigly and see if that helps swallow. If it does, then you can walk around through the world looking like this. No, I'm just kidding. But when you want to practice swallowing, that can help make it easier. All right. Why? I'm going to have you keep that tongue there. And actually, let's recheck before I talk through this. So we're going to come back to the things that we checked before. We're now trying this tongue position, and we're going to recheck. I just saw, okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Hang on. Stop sharing. Sure, I'm reading. I drooled. Fantastic. Yes, that's allowed. All right. So tongue's glued to the roof of the mouth. We're going to recheck balance. So whatever balance position you went in before, go back there. But now that tongue is glued up to the roof of the mouth. Notice if it feels different, right? Does it feel better? Okay. We know your brain likes this. Did nothing change? Fantastic. Maybe your tongue lives on the roof of the mouth all the time. Did you get worse? Please let me know. Okay. We're also going to check range of motion. So go back, glue the tongue to the roof of the mouth, recheck whatever you checked motion-wise. Notice if that improved, whether your range improved or the effort that you had to use to get to that location improved, or did it get worse? Or is it neutral? And then last but not least, glue that tongue up to the roof of the mouth, and you're going to do your hand flipper. Fantastic. And then talk to me. What did you notice? Did you get a high performance drill? Did it improve? Did anybody notice improvements? Did anybody get worse? I'm going to come back to the gallery. One thing you can do is just put a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you don't want to type, that's another option too. While you're doing that, let me talk through why tongue on the roof of the mouth is my public service announcement to the world. Yes, it improved. Awesome, Kulvinder. That's awesome. Where is this? So this is theoretically, this is now called the anatomically correct position of the mouth, of the tongue. I have tested this on hundreds of people, and I would say 98% of them improve with this. There is a study that came out in 2016 on quad strength. They demonstrated a 30% increase in quad strength with the tongue in this position versus any other position, which, you know, they were like, wait a second, we have to redo every strength study we've ever done that doesn't consider tongue position, to which the Z-Health community was like, yes, also eye position and head position and other things. But yes, tongue, it matters. So yeah, the way I think about this, the back of the tongue is innervated by several cranial nerves, one of which is the vagus nerve, right? So we've got the vagal component. There's also glossopharyngeal, and that, you know, the brainstem gets a huge bolus with the tongue glued to the roof of the mouth. So we're getting a decrease in pain. We're getting an increase in stability. And then coming back to the vagus nerve, decrease in anxiety, right? If I've got that vagus nerve, if you're not familiar with it, it's the wandering nerve, and it is one of the key tenets I talk about in neuroperformance coaching is a concept called interoception. It's how I feel in my body. So that gut feeling you get when something's off, that is your interoceptive system at work. It's the integration of the sensory systems into the autonomic system. So also if you get motion sickness, right, we're taking in information from our senses and that's your vagus nerve. It's connecting the insular cortex where that sensory information is integrating, and that is traveling down the vagus nerve down into your stomach and you're having a response. So anxiety, the interoception, how I feel, right? If we're trying to shift the way I feel, making sure I have as much activation of that system can be super helpful. That is also, parasympathetically driven. So we're activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And I just think about, like, if my tongue's not glued to the roof of my mouth and it's supposed to be, then I'm missing that huge bolus of activation for that parasympathetic nervous system, for that brain stem. It makes sense to me that things could get a little out of whack just from that tiny little misalignment of a tongue. Huge power in releasing neck tension. It's like, I like to say that the tongue stays active like the heart and the lungs do, right? They have to stay active for everything else to be able to rest. So the tongue is glued up. It's going to allow my neck to relax. It's going to release tension throughout my head. If you have headaches, this can be a big deal. It can help with snoring, sleep apnea. It obviously promotes nasal breathing, as some of you are figuring out you can't breathe through your mouth anymore with your tongue glued to the roof of the mouth like this. It can improve digestion, again, because of that vagus nerve component, and so much more. This is one of my top 3 drills that changed my life. It is not a simple thing, right? If your tongue is not there habitually yet, this will require work to train it to get into this place, but it is totally trainable. So the way I did this, I was seeing clients, I'd have 6 or 7 a day. And when they were checking in with me about how things were going in their week, I would take that as a trigger to remind myself to glue my tongue to the roof of my mouth. And it got easier almost instantaneously, right? Within a few days, I could get it there without having to do the cheesy grin. Within 3 months, took about 3 months, and I'll never forget waking up one morning and being like, oh my gosh, it's on the roof of my mouth, and I didn't have to think about it. I can still get more activation out of it if I push a little bit harder, but it lives there. That is home base for me now, which I think is just super cool. So that is tongue position. And more importantly, that is the check, try, recheck. Any questions on that so far? Hand was better, neck was better, balance was worse. Interesting. I usually say a mixed bag is not, if you've got 2 clearer ones that are better, I'm going to say cool. Interesting about the balance. I want to dig into a little bit more, Colleen. I'm fascinated. All were better for Karen. Excellent. The one thing with the tongue position, maybe with the balance, it does add a level of complexity, right? I have to think about gluing it up there. And sometimes that can be dysregulating in some ways. So that is something to play with. I'd be curious, Colleen, if tomorrow, if you tried it again, if that had a positive impact. Okay. So this is neural performance coaching. We play with different neural inputs and we see how your brain responds. And then you take these, what I call physical mantras. I like thinking about it that way, right? If the tongue was a high performance drill for you, then this is something I do want you to invest your energy in, right? And it shouldn't take more than a few seconds, right, to check in and make sure it glues up, but you can do it throughout your day and reset your nervous system every time. Now, eventually the tongue will stay there and you're going to need a new physical mantra. And I have hundreds, so don't worry. My feeling with neural performance coaching is this. It's like moving through your nervous system with a fine-tooth comb and having a conversation with these different pieces to see what's not functioning optimally and then retraining it so that it does function optimally. And that is, yeah, basically it in a nutshell. I'm going to talk about what that looks like a little bit more in just a second. Colleen, with the first balance check, I closed my eyes and immediately faltered. This time I didn't fall, but ankles were definitely more wobbly. I do think that's better. Yep, if you didn't fall immediately, that is fantastic. And they do have to work, right? So if you're not falling, then they get to actually do what they're designed to do. Fantastic. Okay, great. I like that. Okay. We lost Forma and they came back. All right, I just want to take a second. I have, wait, where are we? Share. I just want to share with you that we have a workshop coming up in January where I'm going to be going through the whole nervous system. I think if you decide, because I know some people will leave before I get to this at the end, if you decide that this is something that is super cool and you want to play with it, I want to invite you to a free explorer session with me. You can sign up, you can message me in the app, and I can put a link to that here in the comments. I do free sessions because this work is unlike anything most of us have experienced. And I want you to feel it in your own body, right? You're getting a chance to do that here today. But you know, it's to have somebody to talk through it with and create a plan that's, you know, designed for you is super important to me. The workshop will be an 8-week neuro fundamentals workshop. I just did the first one this last 2 months. We just completed it today. It was so cool, right? I had people coming in that some of them have been with me for a while and they really wanted this deep dive into their nervous system. Some of them was brand new. They'd done nothing and they walked in, and that is, and they, you know, went through their nervous system with that fine-tooth comb and they're walking out with more tools. I mean, just the lights are on, right? It takes about 8 weeks for this work to sort of sink in and have it be like, oh my gosh, I actually get this and I understand how to play with this. And the neuro fundamentals will give you all of the fundamental tools that I use to navigate and improve movement and performance. Is that different than the class Thursday at noon in Walnut Creek is my Pilates neuro class? Thank you, Melissa, for that. I incorporate this work into my neuro Pilates classes at Forma. I teach Tuesday at noon and Thursday at noon. And then I have a reformer class Wednesday at 10 a.m. And so we'll use the eyes, right, to turn on the abs and the glutes and play with these different systems to improve range of motion. It's super cool and fun. So that's available there. I also run the focus group, which is also my online community. We meet every day. Karen, who's here, is a part of it, Monday to Friday at 9 a.m. And we do 15 minutes of brain activating drills to get our brains turned on for the day. It's been awesome. I've been doing this for a year now and just really loving the community of it. And it's like, it really works. It's just so exciting. It was a bit of an experiment to see if it was, you know, enough activation to make a difference. But I have ADHD folks in there that are delaying their medication because the impact is big enough that they can do that. And it just makes me so excited because, you know, so not all of us responded well to medication. So to know that there's other alternatives is really, really cool. All right, so that is just my little brief, hey, guess what? There's so much more we can play with this, but I know this is still like, what is this for most of you? Do you want to try another drill? I want to try another drill. So we're going to play with our eyes now. I love this picture so much. I found this when I was designing my website ages ago. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do some eye crossing today. And why do we want to do some eye crossing? Well, there's a number of reasons. One, the eyes, as they come together, have to work in tandem, which is awesome for midline activation. It has a huge frontal cortex activation. So if I am trying to work on focus or executive function, really, really powerful. I use eye crossing in my Pilates class because it fires up the flexion system of the body. So if I want to improve ab function, I can use that. And it's for many of you, will be a novel experience and hopefully a really great place to start with vision training. It's also going to be another example of how we play with the check, try, recheck. So let's go ahead and do that. I've been talking at you for a bit. Let's recheck just to see where we're at. Whatever you were using, if it's balance, range of motion, hand flippers, okay? And then we're going to cross our eyes. So the way I teach this, if you can bring your finger straight in front of you, you can also use, these are called pencil push-ups in the world. I actually think I have a pencil right here. I do. So you can also use a pencil if you want to be more specific with the target, but the finger will absolutely work. I'm going to take that target and I'm going to bring it in towards the bridge of my nose, and then I'm going to bring it back out again. I have bright lights and I can tell I'm tired. You're going to bring it in as far as you can before it doubles. And I'm working real hard there to keep that in one range or one pencil there, and then bring it back out. So if you're getting your target doubling, whether it's your finger or pencil, I want you to stop and only work within the range that you can keep that single pencil, right? If it splits, it means one of your eyes has gone offline and is now looking at something else. So just do a few reps of this, right? Bringing that in, letting those eyes cross, being the owl with a ladybug on your nose, and then bringing it back out. And then we're going to recheck. Checking the balance. Checking range of motion. Ooh, that was very good. Thank you. And then the hand flippers. And then let me know. How did that work for you? Did you notice a difference? Positive difference? Negative difference? No difference at all? If you noticed that things got better, yay! Fantastic. Welcome to vision training. I would like you to find a place in your day that you can do this drill, right? This becomes your physical mantra. Maybe it's tied to meals. Maybe you do it 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe it's every time you go to the bathroom. That's your trigger to cross your eyes a few times. I just like to say I'm here for the revolution of the weird. So if I see you in the bathroom crossing your eyes, I'm going to just applaud. Karen, left hand flipper got better. Rosemary, you got dizzy. Okay, thank you. That was worse. Okay, and Colleen got worse too. Excellent. Do you keep trying this or ease off? We're going to modify it. Okay, we have 2 of you that got worse from this. First of all, I'm going to give you, Rosemary, let me talk through this rather than redoing it just yet. If you get a negative response, right? Do I want you doing this again and we don't want to make you worse, right? But I do want to modify it and see if we can find you what we'd call the minimal effective dose. How much of this can we do to get you a positive result? So the fact that you got a negative result tells me, yes, we are playing in the realm of what's causing some of your pain and problems, right? That should not break you. That should be a basic neural skill so that when a ladybug lands on your nose, you can see it. And it's not functioning as well as we'd like it to yet. So ways that we can modify any of the drills in neuroperformance coaching. One, I don't know if you're standing or sitting, but I was sitting when I did it. You can sit. You can lean against the wall. You can also lie down. So this might be something worth trying in bed, right? Lying down, you cannot fall. I like to say the less likely your brain feels it is for your head to hit the ground, the more it'll take the brakes off, right? So I can decrease that threat by changing my position to gravity. And yeah, I actually teach this drill in my Pilates class lying down because everyone's doing abs anyways. And I know even if you're having a problem, you're going to be all right. And most likely it'll still have a positive impact. So changing position is one. The other is to decrease the range of motion, right? So if I'm having problems coming in, maybe I just stop here. Maybe I find something that feels really easy and do that a few times. And the third way to modify this is to slow it down, to change speed, right? I may want to just take it very, very slowly, let it come in a little bit, and then come back out, right? If you feel okay trying it again, Colleen and Rosemary, by all means, please do, and let me know how that goes. If you want to wait and message me later, I'm happy to talk about that. That could be something we do in a free Explorer session as well. For everyone, I'm going to give us a little visual reset drill now. So if I do a vision drill and I have a negative response, I can also calm everything down. And this is actually one of my favorite drills for anyone that looks at a computer screen, which we all are right now. If you make little cups with your hands, close your eyes, and put those cups over your eyes, we're going to give the optic nerve a little break here. So I'd like you, if you're getting a light show, I have a little bit of a light show going on behind my eyelids. Focus on the darkness. If you can increase the amount of space the darkness is taking up. We're just doing this for about 25, 30 seconds. And then you can remove your hands and let's do one more recheck. I'm going to recheck my balance. Recheck range of motion. And recheck the hand flipper. Okay. How do we do with that one? Nice little bedtime one. I'm ready for bed. Did anybody get a neutral response from the eye crossing drill? If you did, then I would have the opposite conversation with you. I'd want to make that more challenging, right? Maybe I speed it up. Maybe I do it in a balanced position. Balance felt better after the dark break. Great, Colleen. Excellent. So we can make things more challenging, right? And see if we get a high performance that way. The visual resetter, in the case for Colleen, right? This actually is really cool. If I find something that is not working well, I get a negative response. And again, I don't want to leave you here. I want your eyes to be able to cross without it causing problems. If that's not doable yet, I can sandwich it, right, with something that makes me better. So Rosemary, same for you. So Colleen and Rosemary both had a negative response, but we brought them back after we relaxed the eyes. You still got a repetition of this, and your brain, you didn't die. That's kind of how I like to think about it with the brain, right? Hey, I did this thing, and next time I do it, it's going to be a little bit easier. And I don't want to leave you there, right? So we want to find a way to reset the nervous system after that. I'd still probably do this at bed, right? If I'm going to use it as a rehab drill, but just do this afterwards, right? So that I'm calming everything down and I can feel as good as possible when I hop in my bed. That is basically it in terms of what I wanted to share. Again, the free Explorer session, just please take me up on that. I can meet you at Forma Walnut Creek, or it can be done online. And then we can really dive into, what your nervous system needs, and of the options that I have training wise, what might be best. Again, there's the Neuro Pilates classes Tuesdays and Thursdays and Wednesday, and the upcoming workshop in January that if you want more information on that, I'm excited to share that with you. But I'd love to just open it up for any questions if you have any. If you don't, by all means, please go enjoy your evening. I'm happy to stick around for a little bit longer with questions. You can also always email me at neurologyofpresence@gmail.com, neurologyofpresence. And I'm also very prolific on Instagram. So I have a ton of content on there. If you want to check that out, that is also an option. These Pilates classes are not online, Colleen. That is something I'm looking to start in 2025. Through my own business, it probably wouldn't be through Forma at this point, but that is something I would like to offer. All right.
We
Yeah.
have in the chat, but a few of us in the gym did get neutral response. So I was just curious, how can we like challenge it further?
Great. You're in the gym. One thought. So you can did you try speeding it up?
No, we didn't try that. Yeah.
Try speeding it up and see if you get a better result. Let's start with that.
Okay. Sorry, it kind of got worse.
It got worse. Okay, so now we've got more information. Yes? So
Yes.
slow was a little bit boring. you sped it up and it was too threatening. So somewhere in between. So there's a couple thoughts. One is it wasn't challenging enough to reveal a problem the first time is probably what I'm thinking. But then when she made it more challenging, so can you just try it slightly faster this time, not a lot faster? Modify the speed one more time. Rosemary, my email is neurologypresence.com. It's 2 lines up. Do you see it there? If not, I'll just repost it. Oh, it's because I sent it to, lovely. It went to a direct message to my recording device. How helpful. What else did I send to the Explorer session? Cool. Let me put the link for the Explorer session in a place where you all can see it. Thank you for saying that, Rosemary. Rosemary, am I saying that incorrectly? Any change with that?
Yeah, good work. Yes.
Oh, good. Fantastic. So this is how we play, right? We're looking for that minimal effective dose. How much challenge does your brain want, right? For it to feel safer and take those breaks off and let you play more. And it will be different for everybody, but then we start to train these things, right? And does it make sense that the better I'm able to control the movement of my eyes, the easier things become in terms of the way I walk through the world? Yeah. And again, this is one example. In this work, we're going to look at 6 different visual skills. That's the fundamental level, right? Our eyes are designed to track objects, right? To be able to jump to objects. They're designed to hold still while our body moves, right? That's the job of the vestibular system largely, right? So we train these sensory systems and our movement gets better. And when our movement gets better, our thinking gets better, our feelings get better. It's all connected and it is so under talked about at this point that it is just, I think, hopefully will be a revolution, right, in how we think about what it means to have a human body and how important it is to include these systems in our self-care practices. Awesome. Colleen, I'm so glad you were here. Fantastic. Anybody else have questions, comments? I could talk about this all night. I've literally been talking about this all day. So by all means, please come chat with me, whether that's in the Explorer session or send me an email. I'm happy to, kind of guide us in some direction. But this is, I love huge godsend. Awesome, Rosemary. That is so fantastic. Yeah, I look forward to chatting more with all of you. In whatever format makes sense. What is the Insta handle? Good question. I will spell this out. Jessica Rom Foster. That is 2 A's and a U glued together. There are 3 vowels in there. Jessica Rom Foster. It will pop up. And yeah, now that you know the check, try, recheck, right? All of the drills I put in Instagram, you can see if they're having or how they're impacting you, right? And does it make sense that whatever I do on that Instagram reel, you can then modify, right? If it breaks you, we need to slow it down. We need to get you leaning against something, supported, laying down. If it's neutral, we need to challenge it more, right? Or pick a different reel. And if it's a high performance drill, then you just get to use that over and over again until you need a new one. Awesome. I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation with you. Again, please just reach out whenever you have questions or want to play. Have a wonderful night. Never been more aware of my tongue. Yes. I promise it will get more natural, Colleen, but it changed my life. So keep playing with it. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for being here.